Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing more than just telling a horror story. We're actually going to deconstruct it. We're going to look at the anatomy of a curse, piece by piece, to really understand how fear, superstition, and this powerful thirst for revenge can create a monster that is way more real than any ghost. So, let's get into it.
This line. This is the heart of our story. It's spoken by a woman right as she's being thrown out of her village. And it's not just a sad quote, it's a chilling promise. It's this idea that even when a community tries to destroy someone, the fallout, the ashes, they're going to tell a story of their own. And this is right where the tragedy begins. Okay, so our story kicks off in this village called Ketpur. And you have to understand, this place is on the absolute brink. It's like a tinderbox of anxiety just waiting for a spark. 3 months. I mean, just let that sink in. For 90 days, the sky has been nothing but a cruel, empty promise. The sun is just baking the land, cracking it open like a wound. And as the earth cracks, so does the villagers' hope. Desperation is starting to set in. And, when people get desperate, they start looking for someone or something to blame.
Now, what's so interesting here is how this lays out the perfect storm for superstition to just take over. The environment itself feels hostile, The wind sounds like it's wailing. And in this atmosphere of just constant suffering, the villagers' faith starts to curdle into fear. They're convinced their goddess, Kalika, is furious, and they need to find out why.
And that search for blame, it leads them straight to Savitri. And she's a complete paradox. On the one hand, they call her Vaidya Mai, the healer. This is the woman who's brought so many of their children into the world. But on the other hand, she's an outsider. She lives alone, right at the edge of the forest, and she worships at the ruined temple of the very same goddess they're now terrified of. This double life makes her both essential and, well, deeply suspicious. So now we're going to see how all this simmering suspicion just explodes. This is the exact moment that a whole lifetime of respect and trust turns into a death sentence. And it all happens so fast. Savitri is just doing what she always does, delivering a baby. And for one split second, you hear that cry of new life, but then that joy is just swallowed by this awful, eerie silence. Rupa, the new mother, is dead. And in that one moment of shock and grief, the mob finds its target. And the accusation is led by the Mukhya, the village head. His grief becomes this incredibly powerful weapon, and he points it right at Savitri. The woman who delivered his other grandchildren is now, in his mind, a murderer, a witch. And his words, they'd basically give the whole village permission to unleash every ounce of their fear and anger. And Savitri, she tries to reason with them. Her defense is logical, but it's also just desperate. She's pleading, reminding them of all the lives she's saved, trying to explain that Rupa's body was just too weak. But logic is no match for hysteria. Her entire life's work, her whole legacy is just erased, gone in an instant. Yeah, the verdict is swift and it is brutal. They believe she's angered the goddess, and so to appease that goddess, they decide she has to be burned. They set her hut on fire, destroying everything she has. Savitri is forced to run, to flee into the one place that was always her sanctuary and the source of all their suspicion, the forest. So banished, branded a witch. Savitri doesn't just disappear. Oh no. She takes all that pain, all that rage, and her deep knowledge of the old ways, and she starts to forge a terrible, very specific kind of revenge.
This is fascinating because it breaks down the curse for us. This isn't just wild, chaotic magic. It's a cold, calculated ritual. Every single step is deliberate. The mud from the sacred temple, a personal item to forge a link, the curse written out, a thread to bind it, and then burying it in the earth. She is building her revenge, step by meticulous step.
And this just perfectly illustrates her transformation, doesn't it? The woman who once prayed for life is now whispering curses promising death. This is no longer a plea to her goddess. This is a declaration of war against the man who turned her world to ash. So that curse, buried like a seed in the earth, well, it begins to sprout. And it's taking root in the one place she wanted it to, the home of the Mukhya. And just look at how this curse works. It's not a lightning strike, it's a slow, creeping decay that kind of mirrors the village's own decay from the drought. Everything the Mukhya values starts to fall apart. His wealth, his fields, his cattle, and then the health of his wife, Lata. The psychological toll must have been immense, with these strange physical symptoms and awful nightmares just taking over their lives. So totally desperate, the Mukhya calls in the village Pandit, the spiritual authority. And the Pandit, he gives this nameless terror a name, Kala Jadoo. He tells them, this isn't bad luck, this is black magic, an intentional attack designed to bind a person's soul and literally drain the life right out of them. The Pandit confirms their absolute worst fears. He pinpoints the source of it all. An effigy, a little doll acting as a vessel for the curse, and it's buried right there at the old temple where Savitri used to worship. It's the ultimate defilement of her sacred space, now turned into the instrument of her revenge. And here is where the ticking clock starts. The Pandit delivers this terrifying ultimatum. They have until the next full moon to find and destroy that effigy. If they don't, the curse won't just kill Lata, it'll spread like a disease and consume his entire family. The race is on. So, armed with this dire warning, the Mukhya, the same man who once led a mob to destroy Savitri, is now leading his own small, terrified party into the dark forest to confront the horror that he helped create. And there, in the dark, digging in the cursed ground, their shovels hit something. And it's the physical proof of the curse. It's not some abstract evil spirit. It's a crude, horrifying mud doll wrapped in his own wife's scarf. The magic is just sickeningly personal. And right on its chest, the motive is written out plain as day. Your happiness, my thirst. It's such a poetic and chilling expression of revenge. Savitri is basically saying that all the comfort and joy the Mukhya has is what's fueling her own endless suffering, her own unquenchable thirst for justice. So in a fit of absolute rage and terror, the Mukhya grabs the doll, ready to smash it to pieces. But as he does, a voice echoes out from the ruins. And in that exact same instant, the black thread binding the effigy's neck just snaps. All at once, their torches go out, plunging them into total suffocating darkness. He might have just triggered the curse's final act. The next morning reveals the devastating end. Lata is dead, and lying on the bed right beside her is the mud effigy, but it's changed. The place where the black thread was, the doll's throat, it's just gone. It looks like it was burned to ash from the inside out. The binding is broken, and so is Lata's life. And here, the whole tragic, circular nature of the story just comes crashing down. The Mukhya is sitting in the ruins of his life, whispering that he was only trying to protect his family, which is the very same excuse he used when he led the mob against Savitri. His attempt to save his home is what ultimately destroyed it. So, we're left with this question, aren't we? Who is the real monster here? Was it Savitri, twisted by her pain into a vengeful witch? Was it the Mukhya and the mob who chose a scapegoat over reason? Or was the real monster the fear itself, that corrosive, irrational terror that was born from a cloudless sky, that poisoned an entire community and made them turn on one of their own? The story seems to suggest that the most terrifying evil is always the one we create ourselves.